and I enjoyed it, and I heard she did a sequel, and I'm gonna go into that one. But until that time comes, hello and welcome to this part of the pond, where it's the bullfrog, and I just barely finished listening to Drowning in the Deep by Mira. This book is the sequel to Rolling in the Deep, also by Mira.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
The story is, following up the first book. It's 7 years after the first book, and people are still stewing over the mystery of what happened to the boat in that first book, because in my first review, I did my best to avoid the monster, but here I need to talk about the monster to go more into the book. And the monster is nightmare-fueled mermaids. In the first book, it was just a fun monster book, and this one is following that same beat, where the TV company that was responsible for that mockumentary that turned into a disaster, and the cameras were there filming the entire thing.
So much blood!
Yes, you heard that. They've been feeling the heat from financing and them losing their reputation, and now it's considered fake. So in order to regain everything they lost, they're gonna go, we're doing a second shot. We're gonna get a bigger, better boat filled with better scientists and better people and people who know how to use guns, send them to the Mariana Trench and try to understand the massacre of the first book, and what does this mean and what does this lead to. And this ends up recruiting our main character, Tori, the sister to one of the characters of the first book. And she is, she's into it. She would like to do this. A, for vengeance. B, because she's a scientist. She wants to learn the mermaids and how she can get her vengeance off of them. She's going to go on this voyage, but she's not alone. She has her best friend and lab partner, Luis. This quiet, nerdy guy who's big into cryptids. And both of these two are going to go on this ship, and they're not alone. There's a ton of other characters, from a representative of the TV company to his ex-wife, a trio of sisters. Two of them are twins that are deaf, and their older sister is their interpreter, but all three are not as a mix mash as people will see them as. And also two gun-toting fanatics. All these people and more are all in one boat going to that first scene. And as they're there, chaos and terror happen. The first story, a short story, was nothing more than a monster book. It's meant to be a movie. It'll be the perfect B-rated monster film.
Metal.
And this book is following that beat. So when they're going to go there, place a bet on who's going to die, count the cliches, and also how high that kill counter is going to be. I love it. And the book fulfills these promises. But before I go into the cliches and to my love of monsters, let's go into the cons first. Why? Because I want to get this off my chest. Commentary. I understand that authors and writers, you guys have your political views, and you should have them. Just, you do you. But right now, in the current state of America and the world, I need a frickin' break. It's in children's shows, it's in TV shows, it's in movies, it's in superheroes, it's in everything. I just want a break. I want loose. I want to get out of it. And here you are in my monster book. A monster book I was really looking forward to. And this book in particular, the commentary is as subtle as a wrecking ball going through a 5th grader's birthday bash.
But that's a joke, boy. You missed it. Went right past you. You gotta keep on your toes.
And I just was thinking, let's just power through this. I want to listen to a monster story and not power through commentary. Mira Grant, you do you, but probably be a little bit more subtle. You are very imaginative about the mermaids and how, with this story, you're trying to say how zoologically what mermaids would be if they were real.
Metal.
And I find that very imaginative. I enjoyed that. I really did. But I wished it wasn't as, well, a large chunk of the book. I'm not trying to criticize your imagination. That was brilliant. That's actually one of my personal checklists of seeing people, well, be creative with something that we all know, but try to do it in a new way. I'm a big fan of that. And you did really well there. I just wish it wasn't as, well, a big part of the book. But I understand why, but just find a way to package it better. But again, your presentation on that was really well done.
Es muy bueno.
But let's get to what I love. First things first, the monsters, aka the mermaids. These were beautifully perfect. The way how she written them, the way how she presented them, and the nightmare fuel she was providing.
So much blood!
I needed to take a drink because I was just grinning too much. I was so geared up. Monster done right. Girl, you understand monsters. And I mean, you understand monsters. It felt like we're kindred spirits. Mira Grant understands that monsters have poetry, and she did well. I mean, here's an example of the poetry of monsters. Anne's bones may be cradled in the belly of the beast, a finned living graveyard, moving through the ocean as a promise of destruction. Not that many people understand monsters are poetry.
Holy!
And you did it right. You give monsters justice. And speaking of justice, let's talk about cliches. Yes, there's nothing bad about cliches. I just think of there's a good way, a bad way, and a way how to write them. And Mira Grant, you were the same as you were in Rolling in the Deep. Your cliches were meh.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And I enjoyed it, though, because I'm a sucker for monster stories. And again, like I talked about earlier, doing the kill count, placing on a bet on who's going to die, and just marking down all the cliches. Monster movies are a fun hobby, and that's half the reason. If you want to understand what a monster movie is, or a monster story, Mira Grant's Drowning in the Deep proves it. And I liked it. Well, and what would I rate it? Well, from 1 out of 7, I give it a 4. The commentary is just a sludge to go through. The imagination is very clever, and I just wish it was a little bit more tighter. The respect of monsters counters all of that. So it feels like a 4 out of 7. Your monsters are clearly a 6 out of 7. They are just that good. And I loved it. And I would highly recommend this book. For those of my audience, be aware there's some F-bombs and there is a sexy scene. If you're like me and you're uncomfortable with them, you can fast forward through that. It doesn't hurt the story as much. But that's just me. And until next time, this is the Bullfrog signing out. I just love monster movies. And as you can tell, what certain movies I'm looking forward to later on this year.
This is a bad idea.
Just a little bit.
Search the ship. Everywhere.
Evil is on board.
But until then, this is the Bullfrog signing out. Before you leave, here's a line from the book that the narrator said with such seriousness. It was kind of ridiculous. Release the dolphins. Really?